right, well, welcome to our first 2024 open concept. So very exciting. So we're in early February 2024. We're supposed to get a historic day for temperature regarding the high. So I don't know if you can see outside, but it's gonna be about 63 degrees today in February. So I feel like we're in San Diego, California right now.
Should we do this outside instead?
No.
Okay, sounds
It's
good.
too windy.
We should check a month ago. I think it was like actually negative 15 on this day.
Speaking of a month ago, tell us, we're gonna do a quick catch up. So tell us what went on a month ago.
Well, a month ago, about a month ago, I got married. So yeah, it was really exciting. Then we went to Kauai. That was awesome for the honeymoon. But yeah, we got married in an actual blizzard. It was negative 17 on the day.
I was there. Maddie was there. Moncee.
Hey, do a roll call real quick.
Moncee, what happened with you?
But no, yeah, I got stuck. Had showing that day, which was great. And I purposely made sure I drove my minivan because it has snow mode. So I was on snow mode that day because it was like 22 inches by that time, I think, or something like that. And while this was happening, I was texting Jason the entire time.
Yeah, I was like, where are you?
Giving him updates. I was like, hey, we're going to come in hot. He's like, yeah, I got 2 chairs for you, 3 chairs. I said, great. We're going to come in hot. And the next he's like, hey, where you at? I was like, hey, I'm still stuck outside. Well, long story short, should I say, he ended up coming out at 7 o'clock, 6:50 that night.
Sitting at the airport for a couple
Sitting
hours.
at the airport for 2 hours. Mind you, I'm dressed, wearing a nice suit jacket, like a suit jacket, you know, button up, everything, like we're dressed. My girls are in the background, all dressed. My wife's in Kansas City because she's had a volleyball tournament that time. It was like, and the girls are like, oh, I gotta go to the restroom and I'm hungry. I'm like, what is happening right now? So nonetheless, long story short again, we did not make it, unfortunately.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you kind of have a track record of
Yeah. So,
not making weddings.
funny story. I also missed Maddie's wedding.
No way!
Yeah, I also missed Maddie's wedding.
For different reasons.
So we were in North Carolina at her wedding. I'm gonna throw Mitchell Smith under the bus as well because he was with me. So we both missed it. But to be fair,
insane.
I was in another state.
That's insane.
But the track record proves record. So if we ever continue to get new members or somebody else gets married in our community, in our group, then I'm just gonna continue the trend. You know?
Yeah, January was, I think your story about the blizzard is pretty accurate. I think everybody has stories like that where everything just went, you had an afternoon or a day like that. For me, my garage door broke, so we had several days of our garage door not able to park our cars in there. So that was exciting. But yeah, just gearing up for the new year. New year, new me.
Come on.
We're in February now, so we're 8% done of the year, but still got a lot to accomplish. So excited about that. Maddie, any highlights in January?
We just finished our first round of home improvement stuff. I think officially just finished first round. We painted our kitchen and got that already. So it's like the Band-Aid to the next 5 years or whenever we do like the new countertops, paint the cupboards, new flooring, etc. Still need to fix a half bath that had some plumbing issues when we first moved in, but I think now we're at like a standstill of we can kind of relax and take a break from different home stuff.
Maddie's house is one of our favorite houses that were purchased in 2023. It's a really cool house. So
Sweet. Just last weekend, we actually did a little photo shoot with Faith Crane.
Oh, fun.
Shout out to Faith Crane Photography in the house. So it was a nice little couples session, but also a highlight of the home.
that's so cool. So we're gonna pivot hard into 2023 recap. The last 100 days of 2023 were rates got a little bit out of hand, and so to kind of illustrate it, we're probably in the low 6s. It went all the way up to 8 over that. So in Q4, a lot of buyers hit pause and stopped buying, so we had a little bit slower fourth quarter. And as a result, when we look at total sales for 2023, the total sales were mirrored more like 2015. So when you look at total sales, we had the worst year for total in Des Moines for the total homes that were sold. But on the flip side, we had the highest average of sales price. We're at $295 for Central Iowa. What that means to me is that the real estate market just kind of shrunk. So buyers and sellers, people that wanted to sell and people want to buy, just shrunk, which is a good sign. So it's still a healthy market. What you don't want to see is too many sellers trying to sell, and you can't sell them, and then you have less buyers. But the point is, it seemed like the market kind of was still fundamentally sound. Interest rates are supposed to be going down. So right now we're at about 6 3/8, and when you compare that when we're at 8 in the fall, that's a huge deal. And we might get to low fives or low mid fives. So we get in the mid fives, I think it's going to become a pretty chaotic market here in Des Moines. And so we'll see what happens, but essentially when rates go down, that means more affordability. So as a buyer, if you're paying attention to rates, when rates go down a quarter, your buying power goes up by about $10,000. And so I think it's important to really be aware of what's going on with rates. And if you wait too long, then sellers will start increasing their prices, or new listings will go higher. So it's important to kind of realize what's going on here. But what I'm encouraged by is Des Moines is still one of the best markets in all of the United States to buy and sell real estate. I think 2024 is going to be a great year for buyers and sellers. We're really excited to help our clients succeed in 2024. And we've spent a lot of time trying to get better, and the amount of effort we're putting on to set up our clients for success, we're going to see it come through, and it's going to be really an amazing year. So lead into that. So 2024, I think it's going to be a pretty competitive market. We're going to kind of dive into, if you're thinking about buying a house in 2024, how should you prepare? So Jordan, let's talk about budgeting. What are some key things to keep in mind?
Yeah, so a couple key things. After you've made the budget, so making the budget actually, it can take a little bit of time, and you have to treat it a little bit like you're working out, or if you're just doing some kind of fast sprint where you only in the beginning are you really going to be super intense, then you can kind of cruise for a little bit. But there's going to take a lot of heavy lifting up front in terms of just finding out what kind of expenses you need to get, where your expenses are going, how much money you're actually taking in. If you're not on a salary and your income is varied every single month, just knowing how much you're like on average actually bringing in, that can take a little bit of work and to figure all that out to a point where it's like, okay, this is a realistic goal. But after you made your budget, the couple key things that are really helpful, especially like keep prolonging it. I got 2 quotes. And I got one pretty basic principle that's really helpful, actually. The first quote is by Ben Franklin. It's actually shared to me by Jason Rude, the man. Continues with quotes.
And I give all credit to Ben Franklin. That's right.
But it is, beware of little expenses. A little leak will sink a great ship. And so that is like a super helpful quote. Just when you're at the end of the month, if you were able to meet your goals, and that's great, but if you weren't able to keep your budget, a lot of times it's just from the little stuff, whether it be like a $2 that you spent at a gas station for a chocolate bar, but you did that, twice a week for 4 weeks, it's going to add up really quickly, and you're not going to meet your budget. Yeah, so beware of the little stuff, because a little leak will sink a great ship. The second one is accountability is a breakfast of champions. And so, yeah, be completely humble, be willing to have accountability, whether that be with yourself or with your spouse, or if you need someone else to come in and be like, hey, I want to achieve, do you want to achieve? Like, let's achieve together. Then you can be accountability partners, and I think that could be really helpful. Because it can be one of those things that's really easy, that if you don't meet it, that's super discouraged, and if you have no one keeping you accountable, then it's just like, well, I've lived the last 10 years without a really strict budget, and I seem to be fine. So you can kind of give up on your goals and not want to shoot for the stars as much. So just helpful piece of advice is just be gracious to yourself. Budgeting is 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge. I assume at this point that you've already gone through the head knowledge of what your budget wants to look like, and now you just gotta work on that behavior of actually sticking to your budget. And you're not gonna stick to it if you fail your budget, then you're like super hard on yourself, and you just hate budgeting at that point. So make it something that you actually really like and you enjoy doing, and so give yourself grace if you don't meet your goals every single month.
So we always want to start out with a budget before you start looking at houses, so you have an idea of what your ideal monthly payment is. General rule of thumb is when you evaluate your debt to your income, and your monthly payment should not exceed or our target is 25% of debt to income. So your total debt compared to your income, the goal is to be at 25% of that. That's a target. Banks can go up to 42%, but just so you have an idea, that's kind of what we look at for monthly payment. But do not let the perfect be the enemy of good. A lot of our first-time home buyers, they're just beginning their careers, things like that. So a lot of our first-time home buyers more like that 35 to 40%. But sometimes they have a roommate. Sometimes they're beginning their career, and so they'll be making more money, things like that. But during individual consultation, we'll talk more in depth about that. So after you get a budget, what's the next step? Well, the next step is get pre-approved. So let's talk to our main man. He was a loan officer for several years. 4+ at Wells Fargo.
That's right. Just a few years.
But now now he's a real estate agent.
That's right.
He's doing
so
great. Doing big
industry
things.
feel like over 8 years. 8 years.
That's right.
Anyways.
It's by design, baby.
That's right. No, it's good. I think everything that Jordan and Jason had discussed just kind of keeps adding on, right? It's a build-up. It's by design. Your next step will be a pre-approval. Pre-approval is important to understand what you can afford. Right, like Jason alluded to, banks can go up to 45. In some instances now, they can actually go up to 49% debt to income ratio or DTI. But that doesn't mean that 49%, 45% is something affordable for you, right? So understanding your budget is very, very important. And we try to focus on that. Two biggest things that we try to focus on, obviously budget, and then how long you're gonna be in Des Moines. But a pre-approval allows you to understand your budget. Allows you to know what type of house you can buy, and also allows you to have the keys to the car. Without a pre-approval, you are not able to put an offer into the property. You could, yes, in theory, but the seller's going to be like, where's your pre-approval? I don't have one. Okay, well, when you do have one, then come talk to me again. So a pre-approval is very, very important because you don't want to put, is it the carriage before the horse? Is that right? Is that what that's the saying? The carriage for the horse. So get a pre-approval. Even if you're thinking about buying a house in the next 6 to 8 months, like understand what your budget is, understand where you got to work on for your credit. It's also very important to understand where your credit is. And if right now is not the right time, well, hey, guess what? I have 6 months to improve my credit. So at that point in time, I have a better opportunity for a better credit score, for a better interest rate, or for a better payment. Because at the end of the day, monthly payments will be really try to focus on.
And some additional things about that is getting pre-approved. It's really easy. It usually only takes about 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest thing between budgeting and getting pre-approved, you want to take control of the situation, and you don't want to let emotions like a really nice house lead the charge. You want to be more focus on your budget, make sure you can afford it, because our focus as real estate agents is to set you up for success long term. The next step after you develop a budget, you want to develop an idea of your bigger why when you buy a house. Historically speaking, the last 100 years of homeownership here in Iowa, generally speaking, the break-even point of owning a home is right around 4 to 5 years. So when you go through a house, you understand this is a 4 to 5 year commitment. And the reason why we say that's a break-even point is when you sell a house, there's fees associated with when you sell it. So the thought process is you break even after you pay off all the fees when you sell the property, and you kind of, in a sense, you break even, you walk away, and that's what's important to understand about the 4 to 5 year mark. So developing your bigger why, like you need to be prudent. So in light of a question you need to ask is, can I be in this house for at least 5 years? The second question you need to ask is, what's our individual or family plan? Like, not only are you going to be in the house, but do you plan on being in central Iowa for at least 5 years? That's so important to be thinking about. And a part of that too, it's like with the family plan is like, are we going to have kids? Like, if we're going to have kids, then maybe you need to get a 3-bedroom instead of a 2-bedroom. The number one reason why people sell is because they outgrow the house. So you need to be prudent to that issue. And then the next thing about it is like, you got to understand like the bigger, other examples of bigger why. It's like, do you want a dining room? Why do you want 3 beds? Like, dig in more. Say, why do you want 3 beds? Oh, you want kids. Okay, that's great. Or you want guests to stay with you for weeks, things like that. So develop your bigger why, and we can walk you through that. But so the next step after you got your budget, You got your pre-approval, you develop your bigger why and purpose to that. I think then actually when you start touring the homes, what that process looks like. When you start touring the homes, we set you up on a portal, and we will start emailing you houses that are readily available to sell, and then if we know of any off-market properties, we will let you know as well. So we start searching and we start getting alignment. So when you start looking at houses, you got what we try to do is guide you through the process. We evaluate, the key things we look at is the foundation, the windows, the gutters, the roof, exterior trim, the deck, the driveway, and then the furnace, the AC, the water heater, all the key components of the house. And I think what's really important as real estate agents, a lot of times we can kind of come across as Debbie Downers because we just highlight all the negatives of the house. But I feel like that's kind of our job. We want you to be aware of what you're buying. And so sometimes like buyers don't realize like new carpet in the bedrooms and living room could cost $2,500, but a brand new furnace, AC, and water heater is like $12,000. So we bring that up to you so you're aware. So if we go to a house that's commonly called a grandma house with pink carpet, you may be like, I don't like this house because of the carpet, but it has new windows, new roof, everything's like updated, all the main guts of the house are, it might be a better value than a house that has some nice cosmetic updates, some flashy updates, but all the core guts of the house are dated. So we really walk you through that. So part of setting up a tour is we proactively send you houses, and then we coordinate together through text or phone calls. We set them up and we go tour them together. And when we tour them, we're in the house for about 15 to 20 minutes and we evaluate it. We want to keep it simple as a buyer. Do you like the house? If we're going to look at 5 houses in a day, a lot of times they say yes, no, maybe. Just put it on top of the sheet. Do you like it? All the yeses you really evaluate side-by-side comparison. Maybes, maybe they go to no's, or maybe they go to yeses after you look at the houses. But we want to keep it simple and enjoy the process. But a lot of times as buyers agents, we want you to enjoy your tour, but also we want to help you find the right house. And it's active discussion and listing. The average time from the time you start looking to actually buying is about 3 to 6 weeks depending on the buyer. But I've had several buyers, they know what they want. It's just taking one day to find the right house. And that can really happen. And if you know what you want, you have a friend that has a house you really liked and a similar house comes on the market, you might be ready to pull the trigger. That's totally fine. If you do the prep work with the budget pre-approval, a lot of times it just comes together and it's great. You don't need to wait 6 months because that same house may not come on the market in the future. So the last point I want to say, to set you up, we want to I think it's really important to look at houses during the daylight, because when you look at if you look at houses at night, you can miss thousands of dollars that need to be evaluated. And that will be discovered in the inspection. We're not inspectors, but it might be pretty easy to say, needs new gutters, needs new siding, needs exterior trim around the windows done, needs new soffits. Talking about big budgets. So you need to prioritize this as a buyer. When you start looking at buying a house, it's really important for buyers to understand you need to prioritize your time, because you're going to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase a home, and you need to be able to have the flexibility with your employer or take time off to really look at houses to make that proper proactive search successful. Because if you're reactive, there's other buyers that are going to be competitive that can buy the house ahead of you. But after you buy a house, we represent you, get a signed purchase agreement, negotiate it. Let's say everything goes really well. The next step is moving. In a recent survey a few years ago, the number one thing the Americans hated the most difficult trial they go through is not divorce, it's not death of a loved one. The number one thing Americans said was moving, which is interesting. It's very much an American poll. So, all right, let's talk about some moving tips.
Yeah. Everybody doesn't like moving, or most people. And so I feel like there's 3 big tips that you want to do every time that you move. The first one is you want to make a moving checklist, or reach out to us and we can give you a generic one. So just compile a list of all the things that you'll need to do when you move. That could be just like packing up different rooms so you can check them off and feel productive after hours and hours of packing. Different thing that could be on that list is like updating your forwarding mailing address and voter registration and stuff like that. The second big thing is just to purge all of your unnecessary items, things that you haven't used in 6 months, a year, 3 years. I feel like we've moved a couple times and we still have stuff in boxes that we haven't used. So it's time for that stuff to go. And then the third thing is just to color code your labels and to label your boxes. So the color coding is important because then the helpers that you have just helping you the day of moving will know where those boxes get put in the new house or apartment or wherever you're buying. And then to label what is inside each box, that's really helped me this last time, just to know what boxes need to be unpacked right away and what ones can wait a month or two into the new place.
So after the home inspection, I think that's when you get really prepared into moving mode. And if you document well what you're going to take with you, then put them in boxes, it makes the ease of moving into the new house pretty seamless. But if you can identify area in your garage what you want to get rid of, Facebook Marketplace or Salvation Army, it just makes things really awesome. Don't wait until 2 days before closing day to get ready to move. If you need to move out to the next house. So speaking of closing day, what are some things, Moncee, that come to mind? What's the closing day look like with the bank? How long does it take? What should the buyer be prepared for? Things along those lines.
Yeah, closing day is very, very exciting because obviously it's closing day. You have made to the end and to the beginning of a new journey in life. So closing day, just in generally speaking, we like to remind you guys of a few things that you want to do prior to closing. One, obviously switching utilities is also important. Again, we will remind you of that, which is important. And then bringing a check, a certified check for whatever the amount will be at the time, and name to the law firm that we are going to be closing that. So you will need to bring that and a driver's license, legal driver's license, very important.
Yep.
Emphasis on that. Very important. If not, they can't verify you, and then you can't close. But yeah, I think that's the two biggest things that you bring to the table, and you make sure that you really warm up your wrist and your forearm because you will be signing quite a bit of documents. Thankfully, you pre-sign a lot of things electronically in today's day and age, which is awesome. So you're not there an hour and a half, 2 hours anymore. Now you're there 30, 45 minutes tops. As long as you don't get a writer's cramp. If you get a writer's cramp, then you might be there 45 minutes. If not, then they're pretty seamless on it. Just 30 minutes in and out, sign, get your keys, and then we're rejoicing all together in the same room together. So
It's kind of a summary of all the loan documents you have signed up to that point. You've kind of signed loan documents in pieces, block closing is the final form. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes, and it's your house right after you sign. So it's a really exciting day. It's one of the highlights of our jobs is to really celebrate with our clients because there's a lot of work. And we want to celebrate our clients. I mean, our clients are the ones that save the money, have a good credit score, have a good job. And so it's like we just want to do our job in helping them succeed. And it's about our clients and helping them have a great experience. My last thing I want to mention is right now there's a culture that there's a belief that you can't really buy a house, the expenses it's too much. I'm going to challenge those that have that thinking. You can buy a house. There's so many grants out there that can cover your down payment. And I do want to challenge you to really consider that. If you want to be in Central Iowa for 5 to 10 years, this is where you want to live. You want a certain type of level of a home or an apartment to live. You have to be reminded that rental monthly payments, like rent payments, lease agreements, that's a lagging number. And you have to understand when you buy a house, it might appear that the monthly payment is a little bit more compared to owning the same type of house or renting the same type of house. But guess what? You're fixed with your payment. As long as insurance and taxes don't go out of whack, which is very rare, but you have a fixed payment. If you rent the same house for 10 years compared to owning it, it gets astronomically devastating financially. Now, this is assuming you can afford the rent. This is assuming that you can afford the mortgage payment. But I'm just telling you, we try to make the home buying process easy and clear. This is why we've dedicated as a team so much time in really researching budgeting. Jordan has spent a lot of time doing that. I understand that, setting up budgets. If you have bad credit right now, Moncee knows how to help you rebuild it. We really believe in home ownership. And I want to challenge you to really think this through. Don't just rule it out. Like, make that a goal. We can help you. I had a client buy a house 2 years ago. It took 8 years to that point. for her to get to that house. But she got a great house. She worked hard. Life kind of messed her up at times, but guess what? She was in her early 30s. Well, she's probably gonna be in that house until she's about 60, as long as things go as she plans. But it's like, that's gonna be so much better than renting. I recently sold a house this week. They bought it for $170 10 years ago. $170, and all they did some basic maintenance, but they're gonna sell it for close to $290 in 10 years. When you compare that to renting, it's absolutely insane. If you pay that rent and you walk away after 10 years, you're talking about probably close to $200,000 that you get no money back. When you own a house for about 10 years, they're probably gonna be getting around, well over $100,000 back. But not only that, but they're paying down their mortgage. So it's gonna be more like $150,000 to $180,000 back. So home buying is not flashy, but it's much better than renting. And it's so much better to have control and take ownership of this. And so we're a team, we're in it for the long haul, so I want to challenge you in 2024 to really consider about home buying, and you can do it. We've helped so many people all across the board, people making $10 an hour buying a house. We've worked with millionaires, but the point is we want to help everyone at every single price point to really get them into the home ownership situation. And it's your house. Don't discredit humble beginnings. A lot of our clients started with a simple two-bedroom, 600 square foot house, but well, guess what? 7 to 10 years later, they buy a 1,500 square foot house that's pretty nice in the suburbs. It's like, this can be a monumental thing for not only you, but also your family. So reach out if you're looking to buy a house. If you're thinking about it, we want to help you. Whether you will buy this year or 5 years from now, we really believe in home ownership.